Hey guys, what's up? My name's Michael, and here's how I made Ding Ding Dong by the Ballistik Boyz of Exile Tribe. Alright, let's get into it. So this is the full session for the beat for Ding Ding Dong. The track was originally called Glitch Boy, and I started it back in 2022. And it took around 6 months from the birth of the track to the placement. Yeah, about a half a year for that. Basically going to be running through a couple cool things that I don't think people caught on the instrumental, as well as just different production techniques I use for the track overall. Just counting based on track count, people are usually like, oh, like 100 tracks is a lot for a song. This one is 162 without including vocals. Vocals are another like 40 to 45 tracks, I believe. And that's pretty standard, I think, for any K-pop or any J-pop out there. The production is usually built out a lot where there's so many different sections in a song. Say, for example, there's like 8 different groove switches or, sound design things. That's going to require like 5 to 6 different tracks instrumentally based on that, and that adds up a ton. For this one in particular, we really kind of went for a lot of ear candy stuff. We'll dive into some of the drums and some of the other things in a little bit. The way I like working is I have everything organized based on the type of instrument, and then from there I usually do subgroups for the sub types of instruments. Albin, which is the other producer, he had a couple things. He has his own group because he added these things after the fact, after we'd submitted. I just wanted to make sure that they're all in one spot. That way, if he had any changes or any adjustments or notes, I can go to his folder and then, make the changes there. Let's break down the drums real quick. So as you can tell, all the drums there's a lot of drums. A lot of the times when I'm working with drums, I'll organize them and mix them based on where they come into the track. So for example, the intro, all those drums are going to be up here. Then the verse, all the drums are going to be around this section. Finally, for the pre-chorus and then the chorus, all the drums right here. Let's just take a listen to the verse drums real quick. Simple production. I mean, really just abusing Cashmere at this point. Some hand claps, some glitch, some reverb, snares. For this one in particular, we're using a bass kick sample as the main bass. So this is going to be making the kick right here. That's going to be 3 samples layered, 1 for punch, 1 for the low bass, and then 1 for distortion. That's going to be the upper harmonics, which is basically the same bass sample, just running through a bunch of compression, a lot of distortion, just to get it loud and to get it more present. That's usually one of the first times I've done stuff where the kick is also the bass. It's staying on the root too. It's not really changing key, I don't believe, if we can check it right here. Drums are very basic. Like, we're not really doing anything too crazy. Even the intro drums, pretty basic as well, if we just take a listen. Mainly because we're adding in other production, like the effects that come in right here. That's going to be the main focus for a lot of K-pop, the transition tools and what you're using to, transition from one section to the next section. If we go listen to the verse into the pre, you'll hear big key change and big production change. It goes from kind of more like trappy, hip-hoppy to very pop ballad, guitar, big wide open space. Different from the verse to the pre. Very characteristic of K-pop and J-pop. They're called scene changes. So for the verse, you'll have, maybe you want to do hip-hop, right? Then for the pre, you want to switch it up, maybe ballad, maybe more R&B, maybe for this example, we did more pop. Then for the chorus, we went kind of Moombahton type, like reggaeton groove, where it's more 4 on the floor type action. But there's a lot of switches. Like even verse 2 is completely different from verse 1. And that's all on purpose because the whole goal for this genre is to kind of cram in as much stuff as you can without making it too overwhelming. Because for the listener, it's like, hey, if I can listen to the same song and it's, it's changing this much, it's a little bit more engaging to listen to versus something that's like the exact same loop and same drums for the entire section. Pretty chaotic that way. There's other K-pop too, which is pretty US pop oriented, where it's not as crazy. There's not a lot of changes. This one, we kind of went crazy and we did a lot. We kind of overdid it at some points. I'm going to highlight some cool things I think were missed. I like using a lot of vocal chops and a lot of vocal samples for the pre because I think it helps add in more of like a human element to the rest of the track, especially when it's very electronic. This one in particular, I'm using 4 different vocal chops actually. I'm going to solo those real quick. So you can barely hear those, I think, in the final version we ended up turning in, but they're all kind of running through the same chain. Like this one is just auto-tuned and is just super washed out with reverb. In this sense, they're all being used as like background vocals and kind of ear candy to fill out the space that you won't actually hear on the first listen, but maybe if you like listen really deeply, you might hear them. Not a lot happening in the production without them. It's missing something, right? It misses that extra layer without these in. So that definitely helped a ton, just adding more weight to the track. I also preface in advance, and probably too late, the audio craps out. It's because my computer's freaking out. You can tell because the CPU thing is already red. Yeah, if it craps out like that, I will try to avoid and play more of the section just so you guys can actually hear what's happening. So that's the pre. I mean, it's very basic. Like, we're not really doing anything crazy, I don't think. Let's listen to the chorus. I think the chorus is probably the coolest part, the part that I wish people would definitely take another listen to just to see kind of what it sounds like and how everything kind of groups together. We're going to solo the chorus drums real quick just to kind of identify what we did groove-wise. This is how I do all my drums. People don't really like the way they look, but I do all my drums in audio. So we obviously had the kick. Drop snare sample is being doubled with this pre-snare by Oliver and this other drum snare. The reason why I like this is because they each have a pre-roll, meaning that there's a little bit of ride into the hit. It's cool because now I don't have to do that manually. I can just have that built into the sample. A lot of times I'll take like a snare sample that's reverb and reverse it and then cut the transient and then reverse it into the hit just to kind of sweep it in. Those are really quiet too. Whenever you do like reverses and stuff like that, you always want to be turning them quiet in the mix because they're there for feeling. They're not really there for you to hear them. And it helps usually glue together the rest of the drums and make it more of a cohesive thing. The rest are just percussion that's pretty quiet and just kind of adding more to the rhythm. Let's dive into the bass. So for the bass for this one, I am using 3 different layers. We have I love how they're labeled. The low main sub bass, which is this. Which I would definitely call more of like a harmonic bass. This is the sub, I believe. Which you definitely can't hear probably on your phone, but you'll hear it with headphones. And then this is the grit main bass. This is the one that you can most likely hear throughout the track. And then all together, we have this. Whole group is being sidechained to whatever we did with the kick. Next, we have some tonal things, surprisingly. We have a brass stab, obviously a cashmere one, and then we have a reverse guitar, kind of like sweeping into the next hit, and then we have this flute, which is acting kind of like a counter to the brass flute. So if we listen to that in context. Reverse guitar basically helps elongate that brass head, so it's like it helps a groove. I usually do that a lot for samples. I'll reverse, especially if it's just like a single hit and it's not a chord. It's fun to just reverse them into things and kind of help sweep and make some more energy with the track. I gotta go into the synths real quick. This is the main lead that I like a lot. Just doing a lot of like panning, pitch bending type stuff. That's just a serum preset. I think it's from the Aoki serum. That's all it is. But it's running through some more reverb and it's running, I think, through some more pitch bending. Then we have this nice, cool, high, like pluck lead, which I believe we're manually pitch bending. Yeah, so it starts off here and then goes down and goes up again. And that's cool because it sticks out. It's subtle mixing wise, so rather than it being in the way of everything else that's going on, it's kind of just sitting in the back, kind of adds some more character. Albin added this one synth to the chorus as well. I'm just gonna play it, kind of like a siren slash bram. Helps a lot, helps fill out the space. It's in the same vein of it's like very atmospheric, so it's not taking the forefront, it's kind of filling in the back end, kind of like a cool counter. It adds really well with the vocals, because the vocals do kind of like do the same kind of thing, and it really helps add, and it kind of doubles with that, which is really cool. Shout out Albin for that. Next, we're going to tackle the vocals. So the vocals are 2 vocals for the chorus. We have this one right here. which are actually not being pitch bend. I don't understand. I might have flattened these. Oh, maybe I didn't. Okay. So these are just, I guess, naturally doing that curve where it's like, yeah, yeah, it's all kind of doing that pitch bendy type stuff. And this is where I embarrass myself a little bit. So I'm going to mute everything on this vocal. What I did for this track, and I've done for a couple other K-pop and J-pop tracks, is I try singing on them and trying to make them not sound like ass. This was when I tried doing it, and I think it worked. I'll let you guys hear it just to see. I'm going to play it without anything, and then I'll slowly bring in all the effects, and you can see like, oh, that's okay. That's not that bad. But this is with nothing. It's just gibberish too. I don't think I'm saying anything actually. I think this is like take one of like, yeah, there's more too. I don't even want to know what that other stuff is. Running through a gate, that's helping remove any of the noise. And then we're running through autotune, which is pretty crazy. Full autotune. And just with that, it's going to sound even just significantly better. I'm just going to mute all this other stuff. So that's just autotune. Next, we're going to add a lot of compression, a lot of OTT, Alter Boy, EQ, reverb, ozone, I guess for width. Yeah, all width. So. And then another EQ, I think, for who knows what. And then saturator for loudness. And now in context. Gibberish, right? It does. I'm not actually saying anything that has any substance, but it's like, it's cool. I think I spent way too long trying to make it work, but it's cool. Now I can be like, oh, I sang on a J-pop track. That's my rise to fame, you know? I think it's cool. I don't know. When it made the final cut, and for those who don't know, for something like this, we send them stems of everything. So I sent them like 150 tracks, and I was like, all right, here, it's all mixed, right? So they have everything they need, but there's always the option of them like, hey, like we're going to turn this down, we're going to turn that down, whatever, right? Which happens, which is totally fine. I was half expecting them to just delete this. I'm like, oh, they're not going to know what this is. They're going to be like, what the hell is this? Like, we don't need that because there's vocals already, right? And this is named Vox. So it's like, oh, they're not going to need it. But they kept it in, which is nice and important for me. So that plays just in the choruses, I believe. But it helps a ton because it's like dun, 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 dun. Another vocal thing, you know, another subtle thing to add. And then we have a chant that Colin responses it, which is right here. Like splice, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Next, we have some chants that are definitely really hidden. This thing they definitely turned down in the main mix that they released because I like was listening to the one that they put out and I'm like, I can't even hear it at all. I like those like big group vocal chants like, hey, ha. Liar has a lot of good ones. She also does K-pop too, which is crazy. The other couple I found were from Mammoth by That Sound, has a lot of cool like crowd chant things. Like the more group ones where they're not like hip hop chants, these are more like anthem, like get off your feet, stadium type things. Percussion and FX wise in the chorus, I mean nothing. Like we have a crash and we have like cymbals. Yeah, it doesn't need anything because most of the transitioning is just happening naturally with the rest of the song. This is just like took our existing riser and then I repitched it. I added the pitch bending to it and then I reversed it. I've actually used that in other tracks too because it's kind of a cool sound. That's very basic. Didn't really do a ton to that. Verse 2 is a little bit different. We have this 808 thing that I made. Ton of distortion. That's all that really is. For those that don't know, Nani, great. If you know, you know. Pro Q, just doing some cleanup, some high-end adjusting. Saturator to just make it loud. Chorus to add some more width, and then obviously a bunch of other garbage to just fix it. Generally, that ends up what happening. I think with sound design stuff, I'll just end up layering more effects and more effects to kind of keep it. I've gone back to using more Ableton stock stuff because 90% of the time the session can't handle it. And I believe this is just another splice sample that's been retuned and just adjusted for its needs. That's why I recommend too. Like, you know, 90% of the time you can get away with just getting like a one shot on splice, making sure it's in key and then retuning it based on like what comes to mind. It puts you in this like weird box of like limiting you while also pushing you to try something different. And that's what I found with this because I like the original sound. If we click on the original sound and we play it, it's just like a nice cool bass sound, but that's cooler. a little bit cooler. So something to try out. I don't know if you want to take any advice from me. But drum groove, we're doing the exact same thing, I believe. I didn't talk about the guitar. So the main guitar lead is actually a Kashmir thing that we've chopped up a lot. So this is the main loop we have for intro and I think for the verses. So we can look in. I had to re-time it slightly with Ableton's warping. Oh, let's go to the transition. So it's not doing a ton. It's doing some like pitch bending downs. And then it does this kind of cool riser thing. And it goes back down to the root. Probably started working on this when he released Kashmir Volume 4, I believe. And same thing, it's like, yo, just go through some presets, see which is cool. Obviously pitched it down. The original preset sounds like this. Let me not warp it either. It sounds definitely different. We sped ours up and we added more pitch bending stuff, but it works. But that's what we did for the intro. For the verse guitar, we used another loop, I think, from that track, but we did some more cutting with it. This is what it sounds like. And that loop is completely different. That's like kind of like a cool Ableton trick. You put a sample into beats mode, enter the preserve, which is basically, think of it as like chop cut amounts. We put it to 16th notes and then we changed the transient loop mode to off. So basically it plays 16th note cuts and then it cuts it based on a certain envelope. So if we drop this envelope down even more, it's making those cuts even smaller. 46, there's no real rhyme or reason why I chose that number. It's really just for a feel thing. But now we have like a stuttering kind of ARP thing to kind of keep up the momentum. We also use full lengths of the chop without cutting it like that. These two right here. We kind of use those as like just kind of to keep up and make it interesting, because if we have a chop the entire time, it's like, dude, it's gonna get annoying real quick. This was originally a lot louder too in the mix. We ended up turning it down because it's taking up a lot of space in the vocal. Comes in again too for verse 2. So Serum, that's my go-to, I'm thinking for this project. Nowadays, I usually don't layer stuff too crazy. I'll just find something that is close enough and then add some more creative effects to make it fit what I'm going for. Especially when you're working with this many tracks, I ended up flattening like a lot of it. You can tell because there's these like one sections where it's just like a lot of empty space. 90% of the time, once you have a song or a sound dialed in, just commit it. It doesn't even matter at a certain point. If it's like a one shot, you're not going to be carefully going back in and adjusting it. And if you do, it's like you've already made the initial cut. What if you think sounds good, just commit it. And then from there, you can add another EQ, make adjustments and commit it again. That's the one thing I've had to learn from K-pop and J-pop, is that you have to be okay with just committing to ideas and just being fine with, all right, I'm not gonna be able to fix this later, but that's, fine by me. Generally how I've seen more creative stuff happen just through committing stuff to audio and then playing around with it after the fact, because now rather than being forced to make adjustments and make changes, I can just play around with the audio with what I already have there, see what I can do with that. We're going to talk about the bridge real quick now as well. There's another kind of style switch we have. I'm going to play the transition from the chorus to the bridge right here. Very pop. It switches from like pop to hip hop, reggaeton, moombahton, pop, hip hop, which is great because now it's like, all right, the listener is going to be engaged. Bridges generally are R&B and pop, ballady type things. That's the vein a lot of K-pop and J-pop has been leading towards. All the real instruments are all Contact libraries. So this is just the Electric Sunburst Deluxe that comes with Native Instruments Complete, I think. I don't even think I'm humanizing it a little bit. Basically what that means is I'm adjusting the velocity slightly so it sounds human-y. The hits will sound slightly different. I'm running Echo Boy and CLA guitar. That's usually what's giving it more of a sound and more of a girth. Same thing with this bridge sustain guitar. It's doing the exact same thing. I don't even think I'm adjusting the velocity at all. So it's very the stockiest of instruments you can get. Strings as well. It's doing probably some. Yeah, it's a little bit of velocity switching. We can just check here. We're not really trying to reinvent the wheel here. We're really just adding stuff in to kind of build a whole landscape, because instruments by themselves are going to sound like ass. Like, they're not going to sound good. But in context and with everything else combined, it sounds fine. And it's like, all right, cool. It's all mixed together. It's all, you know, gelling, which is the important thing. I mean, if anything, the cool thing is the vocal chop, but I don't think you can actually hear it in the final version that ended up coming out. What is that? Oh, Kara. Shout out Kara. That's just pitched down an octave. I'm going to play it at the original key. This is what it sounds like. I'm going to turn off all the effects too. So even that would have been fine, but we tried to be edgy, we tried to be different. We have another chop here. Treat vocals from Splice and any other royalty-free library as like background atmosphere stuff. Never would advise having them as the main forefront of a track, just based on how content ID stuff and all that issues with that. Use them as background elements. Use them as just like fluff to fill out the soundscape. You'll have better results, and you'll honestly come up with cooler things than just dropping a vocal and saying you're done. And then finally we have it go sweep into this build section, which I like a lot. Nasty. So we basically took this. That's just acting as a siren. We have this Laxity LFO fan thing that I love. It's just running through some Valhalla for some space, but it basically does this cool pitch down thing. Laxity probably didn't think he was going to have a fan turn into a J-pop song, right? It's a cool transition tool, and we're using it in a way where it's becoming LFO based and then pushing it to more rhythmic based. So now it's following the cadences in tempo. We have this thing, which is really cool. I'm going to mute all of this, what it sounded like beforehand. That actually sounds kind of cool by itself. And I think that's why I chose it. I'm like, oh, that sounds sick. So tuner to make sure we're in key. Nani. If you know, you know. Fab filter. We're pretty much doing the exact same chain we did with the verse 2 808. Camel Crusher. Camel Crusher doesn't work on Ableton 11, so we have to go through this section. I mean, it's fine, honestly. It's very much like how the audio unit plugins work on a lot of Apple products, but parameters and a bunch of values, and you gotta change them based on that. Luckily, you can still select presets, so like if we wanted to like change it, we could. And finally, another EQ to polish it up. So this is what it sounds like with everything added to it. A lot more grittier, a lot more like punching in your face. With K-pop, you don't have to be making something new for every section. It's totally fine to reuse stuff, other parts. We're doing that a lot actually here. Forgot to talk about this. This is the post, a crane, silencio pluck. I've tried to use this in so many songs and it never works, and this one is like, all right, it works. Okay, let's keep it in. That splice. So it's just doubling with that. It's just reinforcing the pattern and giving it some more girth. Fun song to make. If anything, we didn't write this based on a brief. A lot of people hear like, oh, K-pop. It's like, all right, you write to briefs, right? For this one, we didn't. The main advice was, hey, listen to what's trending in K-pop and J-pop and try to structure something that's similar but not exact copy. So that's usually what I did. Made sure that I was copying the scene changes, making sure that there was enough changes throughout the track, making sure that it was all cohesive, because a lot of times when you're having so many things change, you kind of lose the main vision of the song. Making sure that was all the same and kept that was also important and something I made sure to do as well. For those that don't know, I've been trying to do K-pop and J-pop for 3 or 4 years. It's been a long, difficult road, but I'm glad to say first placement in the books. Glad it was with the Ballistik Boyz. Shout out to them. I think the music video is it hit like 4.1 million last I checked. I'm not sure when this video is going to be edited. Shout out to them. Glad they killed the song. Hopefully we'll do many more with that group as well. Just wanted to dive into this because I feel like not a lot of people understand a lot that goes into the J-pop and K-pop music scenes, especially with the production part. If your track isn't hitting 150 tracks, then you're not there yet. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to check out more content about K-pop and J-pop, definitely make sure to follow and subscribe. More videos will be coming out soon, and definitely go stream Ding Ding Dong by the Ballistik Boyz. Let's run up those numbers. All right, peace.